All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are breaking down the absolutely massive world of macroeconomics. You do everything right. You budget, you save, you invest, but then you turn on the news and hear about inflation or interest rates or national debt, and it feels like you're just this tiny boat in a giant stormy ocean. Well, guess what? You're not wrong to feel that way. And understanding that ocean is exactly what we're going to do today. So let's dive right in by looking at the two main ways economists see the world. It really comes down to this simple idea, the difference between looking at a single tree and seeing the entire forest. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On one hand, you've got microeconomics. That's the trees. It's all about you, your household, or maybe one company. It's about individual choices. But then you've got macroeconomics. That's when we step way back and look at the whole forest, the health of the entire national economy. For the longest time, economics was really all about the trees. The main idea, coming from thinkers like Adam Smith, was that if every individual just did what was best for them, the whole system, the whole forest, would kind of magically take care of itself and everything would be great. But then a crisis hit. A catastrophe so big that this traditional way of thinking had no answers. It was a moment when the entire forest looked like it was dying. We're talking about the Great Depression. Just look at this number. In the US, unemployment went from a pretty normal 3% to a jaw-dropping 25%. Think about that. 1 out of every 4 people who wanted a job couldn't find one. It was a complete and total economic collapse. And here's the crazy part. The crisis happened because millions of people were making what seemed like the only logical choice for themselves. I mean, if you're afraid of losing your job, what do? You stop spending money. And if you own a business and see that nobody is buying your products, what do? You stop investing and you have to lay off workers. All of those individually smart decisions added up to a devastating collective nightmare that just kept spiraling down for years. It became painfully obvious that the old way of thinking just wasn't enough. The tools they had were broken. It was crystal clear that we needed a new way to understand and maybe even manage the economy as a whole system. So let's look at how this absolute disaster sparked a revolution in economic thought. First, you have to remember, for hundreds of years, Adam Smith's ideas were king. His whole argument was that the economy was basically a self-correcting machine. It's all about individual actions magically creating wealth for everyone. But then, right in the thick of the Depression, a British economist named John Maynard Keynes publishes this book. And it was a complete game changer. As you can see here, it's considered one of the most influential economics books of the entire century. It offered a totally new way of seeing things. And what Keynes gave us was macroeconomics. He was the one who said, look, we have to analyze the entire system, the whole shebang. We need to understand how all the parts are connected if we're ever going to tackle huge problems like mass unemployment or runaway inflation. Finally, we had a language to talk about the forest. Okay, so if we're looking at the whole forest now, who are the ones actually in charge? Who are the gardeners, the managers of this whole thing? And this is a really key difference. In microeconomics, the players are you, me, a single company. But in macroeconomics, we're talking about the heavy hitters. We're talking about the government, the nation's central bank, like the RBI in India, and other major regulatory bodies. Now, here's what's so important to understand. Their motivation is completely different. A private company's goal is to make a profit, period. But these big institutions, they're guided by public goals. Their job isn't to make money for themselves. Their job is to keep the entire economic system stable and healthy for everyone else. This really brings us to the most important question. Why do we even need this big picture view? What's the end game here? This slide just nails the contrast. It's the difference between asking what's best for me versus asking what's best for all of us. Microeconomics is driven by private profit. Macroeconomics is driven by public welfare and the needs of an entire society. And these are the big goals they're trying to hit. They're trying to steer this massive ship of the national economy, trying to keep prices from spiraling out of control, making sure people can find jobs, creating stability, and ultimately trying to improve the well-being of the entire nation. So, that's the big question, isn't it? We've got the tools now, we can see the whole picture, so why is it still so incredibly hard to create a perfect economy? Well, it turns out macroeconomics gave us the map, but it also showed us just how complicated and dangerous the territory is. The problem is, those big goals we just talked about, they often conflict with each other. The very same thing a central bank might do to fight inflation could slow down the economy and cause unemployment to go up. It is a constant, high-stakes balancing act. So while we can finally see the forest, the debate on how to best manage it, well, that's the great challenge that keeps economists and world leaders busy every single day.